Let's talk about the WNBA and the league's demise now that Caitlin Clark is no longer going to play this season. The WNBA and the Indiana Fever, Stephanie White, Amber Cox, all the way up and including, let's just keep it real, Kathy Engelbert, Adam Silver, the National Basketball Association, everybody that participated in the farce.
Caitlin Clark's season is officially over, and the WNBA has no one to blame but itself. From a quad strain in May to recurring groin injuries in June and July, and finally a bone bruise in August, her body kept breaking down. Clark missing the rest of the season isn't just a personal setback. It's a league-wide disaster born from poor officiating, weak communication, and non-stop physical targeting of one player. Fans are furious, demanding answers, refunds, and even calling for boycotts. And the league's response has been silence at best. How did they let their biggest star collapse in just 13 games? And what does Commissioner Kathy Engelbert say about it? Let us know in the comments below if you think the WNBA is at fault. Let's go.
Caitlin Clark out for the remainder of the 2025 season, something we all think we knew was coming after what Stephanie White said earlier today. We couldn't be too sure until we see it for ourselves. And with this announcement from the GOAT's mouth herself, Caitlin Clark won't be returning this season, nor if the Indiana Fever make the playoffs.
How many times did referees just stare straight ahead while Clark was shoved into a screen, grabbed by the jersey, or knocked completely off balance? I want to act like it never happened. That's what eats at fans. Everyone saw it in real time. Possession after possession. Clark getting hit hard, fighting through curls, thrown in to help defenders, sometimes even double-teamed before touching the ball. And refs had countless chances to blow the whistle. Instead, they swallowed it. Over time, it became a pattern later documented by the Washington Post. This wasn't one team being too physical. It was the entire league taking liberties with a player who instantly became the face of the sport.
Well, it all started last year in her rookie season, where she received 20% of all the flagrant fouls in the league. And most of them came from Angel Reese in the Chicago Sky. And these weren't basketball plays. They were not only fouling her, but they were getting up, laughing about it, laughing about Caitlin Clark getting assaulted. Any other work environment, people go to jail for what's going on.
And the league's biggest draw, the one carrying not only her own franchise but half of the WNBA's rating surge, was left unprotected. Think about that. One player filling arenas in Dallas, Las Vegas, New York, and Chicago should have been treated like the investment she was. Instead, while networks signed record deals to broadcast her games, referees refused to give her even the basic calls stars receive nightly in every other league. What fans saw was defenders crashing into her off-ball, hand-checking that stopped her cuts instantly, and constant contact that would have been fouls for anyone else.
The WNBA and all the people that follow the WNBA and try to promote the WNBA don't understand that Caitlin Clark's game resonates with us. I say this every day, and every day I got to deal with somebody else dumb in the media. Caitlin Clark's game resonates because she's got flair, she's got flash, she's got style. I said this before, and I'll say this again. We saw Sue Bird's game. We saw Diana Taurasi's game. Kim Mulkey was Sue Bird before Sue Bird became Sue Bird. We've seen it. We haven't seen Caitlin Clark.
This wasn't just frustrating to watch. It was dangerous. Those constant cheap shots don't just leave a player sore. They build up over weeks, wearing down already strained muscles. Clark's quad tightening in May, and her groin issues in June weren't mystery injuries. Repeated hits, twisted pivots from denied space, and unprotected landings all piled on. These are exactly the conditions that lead to stress injuries that never fully heal without extended rest. She was forced to keep playing through everything.
And last year, I noticed how much it was just Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark was taking all the hits. Caitlin Clark was taking all the abuse. But this year they've added Sophie Cunningham. She gets more flagrant fouls on her than anybody in the league besides Caitlin Clark. And Aaliyah Boston, she's been taking hits as well. But the worst thing is the consistency. So they don't call flagrant fouls, or most of the time, Caitlin Clark can be held for an entire game at a time. They don't call fouls. They don't call common fouls.
That's why fans call it hypocrisy. The WNBA begged for headlines about record ticket sales, surging merchandise orders, and new sponsorships tied to Caitlin Clark's name. Yet, when it came to the most basic responsibility, protecting the player driving those profits, they acted like she was just another rookie. The truth is, she wasn't. And letting her get battered night after night didn't just compromise results, it put the entire season in jeopardy.
The folks that cover the NBA, these people that play in the NBA, these people that cover the NBA, there, I said these people, all of you, black, white, green, purple, why don't you understand a very simple thing? Her game is dynamic. Like Diana Taurasi was like a jackass to Caitlin Clark. Why? Her game is what people are drawn to. And then you go to the personality. Her game is different than any WNBA woman ever. And she wins, and she shoots from deep. It's no different than Steph Curry. How many times we got to say?
So, what happens when your golden goose stops playing? What happens when the league refuses to call fouls? And the end result is your star limping instead of running the floor. Now we know. The referee's negligence didn't just tilt box scores. It set up Caitlin Clark's season-ending collapse. And the backlash that started on the court didn't stay there. It spread. Was Clark's sophomore season doomed from the first preseason practice? It feels that way. Go back to training camp in May. Reports already noted her quad tightening, something most athletes would rest to avoid worse damage. Instead, she was pushed as a centerpiece of every event, every practice, every marketing push. Less than 2 months later, it escalated into a groin injury. By July, that became a full tear on the right side. And then came the announcement nobody wanted. Clark was done for the year. This wasn't about one moment. It was about a chain of choices that never gave her a chance.
I mean, it's a gut punch that basically encompasses an entire season of them. The Fever have lost so many players to injury, but obviously none bigger than Clark. And there was such a wait for this second season after her magnificent rookie season. And then, you know, the anticipation of her possibly coming back, only for that not to happen, takes a lot of air out of the room, obviously takes a lot of energy out of the fans, and is a devastating blow for not just the Fever and the WNBA.
What's most frustrating is she never had a stretch of games fully healthy. She was listed day-to-day at least 3 different times, and each time the word precautionary was used like reassurance. But in the WNBA, precaution apparently meant the top attraction rushing through limited treatment, taping up, and returning to the floor that same weekend. It was like watching someone run on one leg while being told they were fine.
Clark, a 2-time All-Star and the 2024 WNBA Rookie of the Year, has been sidelined suffering a right groin injury during the Fever's 87-77 win over the Connecticut Sun on July 15th. If you guys remember that game, Caitlin Clark put the team on her back in the winding minutes to give the Indiana Fever that lead. Clark also suffered a bone bruise at a later date during her recovery process.
That's where mismanagement becomes clear. Anyone familiar with sports knows injuries pile up if you don't let them heal, forcing her into back-to-backs, heavy defensive attention, and road trips so quickly didn't just risk setbacks. It guaranteed them. Coaches had to see she looked limited. Her driving speed slowed, her cuts lacked sharpness, and she grimaced through minutes she shouldn't have played. The medical staff's job was to protect her even when Clark wanted to push forward, and in that duty, they failed.
Caitlin has worked so hard throughout this time, doing everything possible to recover and return to the court, but ultimately, time is not on our side, said Indiana Fever COO and GM Amber Cox. While we wait, while we will continue working with Caitlin and provide her with every resource we have available, there is not enough time left in our season for her to safely return, and her long-term health and well-being remains our top priority. We are looking forward to having her back at full strength to start the 2026 season. Clark appeared in 13 games during the regular season, averaging 16.5 points, 8.8 assists, and 5 rebounds per game, while helping lead the team to the 2025 WNBA Commissioner's Cup title.
Think about the hours she said she was grinding just to get back. Hours in the gym strengthening everything around the injury, only to fall back to square one again. While fans were fed constant updates about possible return dates, inside a locker room, it was clear her body wasn't responding. The public was strung along. Stadiums promoted road games featuring Clark, and fans bought tickets expecting her. All along, she wasn't even close to 100%, and that disconnect is what stung the most.
And this is what Caitlin wrote. I had hoped to share a better update, but I will not be returning to play this season. I spent hours in the gym every day with the singular goal of getting back out there. Disappointed isn't a big enough word to describe how I am feeling. I want to thank everyone who had my back through all the uncertainty. This has been incredibly frustrating, but even in the bad, there is good. The way fans continue to show up for me and the fever brought me so much joy and important perspective. I'm so proud of how this team has only gotten stronger through the adversity this year. Now it's time to close out the season and claim our spot in the playoffs.
So, was revenue valued above her health? It's hard to see it differently. The fever needed her to fill arenas. The WNBA needed her to drive TV ratings. And nobody slowed down when warning signs flashed. As a result, Caitlin Clark didn't fall from a freak accident. She broke down after 13 games because of a season-long cycle of short-sighted choices. And that collapse didn't just cut her years short. It dragged the league's financial momentum with it. When Cathy Engelbert finally addressed Clark's season-ending injury, fans knew something was wrong. The commissioner faced the biggest player health disaster in years, yet her words sounded more like corporate PR than true leadership. It was a definition of sanitized optimism, a quick nod to league growth, but no accountability that officiating failures and lack of protection had any role in what fans had just witnessed.
This is on your head, Cathy Engelbert, and the rest of the WNBA Players Association executive leadership who failed to hold officials and players accountable for the barbaric style of play the Fever and Caitlin Clark have had to endure this year. Cathy, resign.
That disconnect is what hurt most. Clark went from carrying record-breaking ratings to sitting on the injury list for months. Instead of hearing the commissioner admit, yes, mistakes were made, and here's how we'll fix them, Engelbert shifted back to the same talking points about expansion, revenue streams, and constructive dialogue. That may look fine on a financial sheet, but fans recognize a real issue. The very referees she employs fail to control repeated targeting. And instead of calling them out or promising accountability, she avoided the subject entirely.
A bunch of players and coaches over the last few days have complained without being fine-worthy about officiating. I just want to see about your thoughts on if officiating is an issue and how it can be improved. Because clearly there seems to be problems or a disconnect between what players and coaches feel and what officials are actually calling.
It becomes even more insulting when you realize how often Engelbert highlights league growth every time a microphone is in front of her. Growth built squarely on Clark's back, while referees kept swallowing whistles as she absorbed shove after shove. Engelbert celebrated packed arenas in May and June, but by August, when those same arenas were filled with angry fans demanding refunds, she still chose to talk about profits instead of responsibility. To supporters who had poured their money, time, and energy into the season, it sounded like she was living in another reality.
I know as a fan of sports for 60 years now, I know that no one's ever happy with officiating. All sports deal with it, but we're working hard to make sure we're putting the best product out on the court, and our officiating then follows that.
The backlash came instantly on social media. Even loyal WNBA diehards said Engelbert's silence on officiating proved the league didn't care about Clark's safety. Some used words like betrayal. Others took action, demanding refunds and posting canceled ticket receipts. What started as disappointment over Clark's injury turned into hostility toward league leadership. The commissioner had a chance to connect with fans, admit the officiating problem, and promise stronger protection for players moving forward. Instead, she delivered hollow lines that only fueled the anger.
They play against Breanna Stewart. She goes to the line 14 times. Asia Wilson goes to the line 13 times. And Aaliyah Boston can't play 20 minutes in a game without being on the bench in foul trouble. That's another problem that we're dealing with. But like I said, this year, it's not just Caitlin Clark. If you wear that Indiana Fever jersey, consider it done. The refs are not going to be fair, and they are going to cheat and do whatever it takes to do what the higher-ups say.
Fans now view Engelbert as a face of a league where public relations outweigh player health, where its stars marketed as a product instead of safeguarded as an investment. That realization hardened into a movement. Boycott talk isn't casual chatter anymore. It's organized, spreading, and aimed at draining playoff attendance. Engelbert's empty words didn't calm frustration. They inflamed it, proving she was out of touch with the league's real issues. And once that disconnect took hold, panic followed. One injury announcement was enough to tank the market. All-Star tickets had sold for over $200 in June, dropped to $60 overnight, with resale sites flooded by fans dumping seats they'd marked for months. This wasn't just any All-Star weekend. It was Indiana, Clark's home stage, the event hyped as her first national spotlight in front of hometown fans. That hype vanished in hours, leaving the showcase hollow.
We've got Colin Cowherd saying, you know what? Guess what I didn't talk about on my show this year? The WNBA. Guess why? He just come out and said it yesterday. Because Caitlin Clark was not playing. That's why. He said, I led my show, my biggest, largest national sports radio show in the country. I led my show with Caitlin Clark 6 times last year. I mean, you don't lead a show with anybody unless they can draw.
The anger boiled into action. Boycott calls spread across social media. Fans vowed to leave arenas half empty. Optimism from earlier months gave way to raw frustration. The league wasn't just missing its biggest star, it was watching its business model unravel in plain sight. And that raises the bigger question. If the short term looks this unstable, what does it mean for Caitlin Clark, the Indiana Fever, and the WNBA's future? Clark's season didn't collapse only because of injuries. It collapsed because the league refused to protect her. In doing so, they shattered the trust of the very fans keeping them alive. That's the real damage. Fans don't want vague PR. They want accountability, better officiating, and a commissioner who stands up for players. Without that, boycotts could gut the playoffs before they start. Still, the Fever fight on. Kelsey Mitchell battles every night. Aaliyah Boston's leadership continues to grow. Lexi Hull keeps grinding. And don't forget, Clark will return stronger in 2026. Let us know in the comments if you think the WNBA is to blame for this mess. Like, subscribe, and turn on all notifications so you never miss out. Click the video on screen. We'll see you in the next one.